That didn't take long, at all. According to WBRCTV in Tuscaloosa, Donnie Lee Jr. was arrested early Thursday morning on one count of third-degree domestic violence. It's alleged that a verbal confrontation turned physical and resulted in his girlfriend sustaining unspecified injuries. From the television station's report, police responded to a domestic call in the 900 block of 12th Street around 1 a.m. The arrest report states there was a verbal disagreement between Lee and a female he was dating. The disagreement resulted in a physical altercation and caused injuries. Lee is, or was, a senior whacking for the Crimson Tide. He suffered a torn ACL during summer camp earlier this year, making it an easy decision for the football program to dismiss him from the team, which they did shortly after word of the situation surfaced. Donnie Lee Jr., a walk-in who has not been participating in team activities since a knee injury in August, has been dismissed from our football team and is no longer part of our program, a statement from head coach Nick Saban began. This behavior will not be tolerated from anyone and is not representative of our football program. If there was ever a dictionary definition of a tale of two halves, this game was it. Through 2 quarters of play, Houston held a relatively comfortable 170 lead on number 25 Memphis as the ASC teams headed into their respective halftime locker rooms. When the second half dust had settled, the Tigers had righted themselves en route to a 42-point last 2 quarters in a stunning 4,238 come-from-behind win over the Cougars. Riley Ferguson passed for 471 yards in the win, although he had just one touchdown pass on the night. Patrick Taylor managed the scoring load for the Tigers, though, as he scored 4 rushing touchdowns on 14 carries for 39 yards. Taylor had just 3 touchdowns the first 7 games of the season entering Thursday night. Despite Memphis' second-half scoring deluge, homestanding Houston actually held a 10-point lead with just under 7 minutes remaining in the game. Turnovers on their last 2 possessions, however, torpedoed any chance of the home upset of a ranked conference foe. With the win, Memphis moves to 31 in American Athletic Conference play and into a temporary tie with Navy, which plays number 20 UCF Saturday, for the top spot in the Group of 5 Conference's West Division. While everybody on the Palouse is worried about Mike Leach following athletic director Bill Moose to Nebraska this week, a more pressing concern for Washington State is getting back on track and beating Colorado on Saturday night. That might be just a tad bit tougher now because the school has suspended leading receiver Tavares Martin Jr. for 1 game following his actions subsequent to the team's loss at Cal last Friday. The reason he won't suit up when the Buffs roll into Pullman, it seems he got a tad angry, throwing a bit of a temper tantrum and skipping a practice. He was a little angry, saying things hadn't gone his way the last couple of games. He broke a team rule and needs to be punished for that, the receiver's father, Tavares Martin Sr., told the Seattle Times. He just made a mistake, and he had to pay a price for it. It was a miscommunication between him and the coaches. He was upset. He said he felt like he should have been more involved in that game. Martin Jr. leads the team in receiving yards, 502 and touchdown 7 after starting all 7 games this season. Despite that, he had just 3 catches in the Cougars' 373 loss in Berkeley that caused them to tumble out of the top 10. The Florida native reportedly apologized for his actions and was placed on the scout team in practices prior to playing Colorado. It seems the stiff lesson is being learned quickly though, as he is expected to be back for Waz's game at Arizona next Saturday, likely with a much different attitude. The greatest intersectional rivalry in college football between USC and Notre Dame is turning into a potential battle of walking wounded on defense. The latest name on the injury list, Irish linebacker Greer Martini. The starter and team leader has been dealing with a knee injury he suffered in practice, and while there was some thought he could be back for Saturday's massive showdown with the team's rivals from Los Angeles, that appears not to be the case. Indianapolis Star beat writer Laken Littman reported on Thursday afternoon that Brian Kelly confirmed after practice Martini would miss the game and that he had a surgical procedure to clean up an unspecified meniscus injury on his knee. Brian Kelly says pound Greer Martini out for USC. Had procedure done to clean up meniscus injury. Feels confident he'll be back for NC State. Laken Littman at Laken Littman, October 19, 2017. Martini is a captain on the team and the 3rd leading tackler on the defense. In his absence, junior Tevin Coney likely slides into the starting lineup at linebacker. The good news might be that Martini could be back for an equally important game against NC State that could loom large in any college football playoff discussion next month. The Trojans are dealing with the loss of defensive tackle Josh Fato and linebacker Porter Gustin for this week's trip to South Bend as well, so both sides have a number of injuries that could hamper their ability to stop the run on Saturday. Given that the game will feature two of the best tailbacks in the country in Ronald Jones and Josh Adams, things could turn into a track meet come kickoff time on NBC. It seems the tumultuous off-season that Mark D'Antonio has experienced dating back to last year is not ending with the 2017 campaign being well underway for his Spartans. That's because the Michigan State head coach is dealing with yet another headache, this time caused by star running back L.J. Scott. The Lansing State Journal reports that Scott was arrested on Wednesday for driving on a suspended license. Now you might say, oh, that's not that big of a deal all things considered. Generally you'd be correct depending on the circumstances. Yet in this case it kind of is a big deal because this is the 7th time, yes, 7 times, Scott has been arrested for the same general offense. So yeah, per the LSJ, Scott, 21, was arrested and later released on a personal recognizance bond, East Lansing Police spokesman Lt. Chad Connolly said Thursday. He declined to comment further because Scott has not yet been arraigned. The charge carries up to a year in jail if Scott is convicted because he has at least one prior conviction on the same charge, which is typically a 93-day misdemeanor. What might be worse is that the junior has been cited for the same issue across 2 different states, including Michigan and his native Ohio. The first instance happened back in February 2016 according to the paper, but charges were dropped after a citation was issued and a fine paid. Scott got caught later in March 2016 when he was speeding, another time in April 2016 after being involved in a car crash, and yet again in July 2016 by campus police. But wait, there's more. Scott was pulled over and charged again this past March and another time as recently as July. The LSJ does not have information as to why his license was suspended in the first place, but we can offer a few guesses. What might be even more infuriating for D'Antonio and the coaching staff is that Scott just posted a career high against Minnesota 194 yards and seemed to finally emerge as the primary ball carrier over senior Gerald Holmes and fellow junior Madre London. The school had not released a statement regarding the matter, but it's probably safe to assume that the Spartans will be without Scott on Saturday when they play Indiana.